let me just ask what I asked a version of in the NBA moments ago, which is, okay, Oilers are down 1-0. Now, let's just say, I know you have, it sounds like you're about the Panthers here. But if you had conviction on the Oilers, is this the time to, because on the adjusted series price, they're plus 210. You can get Connor McDavid for north of $3. Wouldn't the bet be to bet Connor McDavid for the Conn Smythe?
I think so. I think if you're willing to back the Oilers to win the series, then you get a better price, obviously, on McDavid to win the Conn Smythe. And I struggle to see it going to anybody else. I think there is a world where Leon Draisaitl could win it. I don't see a world where anybody outside of those two guys wins it. And I think at the end of the day, it would ultimately go to Connor McDavid if they win this series. And he looks 100% healthy, or at least close to 100% healthy. We were speculating late in that Canucks series on an injury for McDavid, and he did not look 100% at all. And even early in the Dallas series, I didn't think he looked 100% either. And as that series went on, he looked better and better, got a full week off this week leading into the Stanley Cup final. And I thought he looked terrific in game one. He was dancing. He looked like the regular Connor McDavid. So, yes, if you're willing to back the Oilers, I think I would just take the better price and go Connor McDavid for Conn Smythe, because if they do win this series, it will more than likely be on the back of Connor McDavid, and the voters would go to him for the award.
Yeah, it's a little different than the Doncic Maverick price difference. So let me just ask this. Beyond getting the puck by Bobrovsky, which is obviously the simple answer to this question, what must the Oilers change here moving forward?
Yeah, well, and that's I actually thought they did a great job managing the forecheck of the Florida Panthers, and the Panthers forecheck has been so strong the last couple of years, guys. It's really impressive, and they can wear teams down over the course of a series. We saw them do it to the Rangers. The Rangers defensemen just seemed so banged up by the end of that series. They didn't have much gas left in the tank, and I could see something similar for the Oilers as this series goes on. So I actually think they did a lot of things well in that last game. 5-on-5, they really impressed me as somebody that came into this series backing the Panthers and thinking that even it possibly could be a quick series. I saw a lot of things from Edmonton's game that made me think, okay, maybe they will have their mark on this and find a way to get into this series. So I think they just have to stick with what they did in game one and hope for some better puck luck and to play with a lead. I really do think whichever team scores first in this series is going to have a lot of success, because the Panthers are great at playing with a lead. We saw them able to close out that game on Saturday, and we've seen Edmonton able to close out a lot of games throughout the course of these playoffs when they play with the lead as well. So that first goal tonight is going to be huge. Like I said, Edmonton showed me a lot of positive things in their game, despite the loss and not being able to beat Bob, like you mentioned, Gill. I still think Edmonton could come away from that game feeling pretty good about how they played and just thinking, let's run it back and hope for some better fortune in game two.
Panthers minus 135 tonight. The Oilers plus 114 on the comeback. And by the way, real quick, you see anybody else on the Panthers? If the Panthers win this, is there a path for anyone but Bobrovsky to win Conn Smythe?
I think there is. I do. And obviously Bobrovsky had a terrific game one. And if he plays like that for the rest of this series, and because leading up to this point, guys, it really hasn't been a Bobrovsky run for the Panthers like it was last year. Last year, they were totally reliant on him. This year, they're just a dominant hockey team, and he's there, and he'll make them a couple saves throughout the game if they need it. But they really haven't been leaning on him the way that they did last year. Now, game one was a different story. Game one looked a lot like the Panthers from last season in the playoffs, where it was leaning on Bobrovsky, and he had to really carry the team in that game. So if that's what we're going to see the rest of this Cup final, then yes, Bobrovsky would win the Conn Smythe if the Panthers win this. But I still like Sasha Barkov, guys. He had a terrific assist in Saturday's game, and his two-way game. If he's able to shut down McDavid or slow down McDavid, I think it's impossible to shut down a player like that. But he's going to be tasked with trying to slow down McDavid throughout the course of this series. If it finishes, and let's say the Panthers win in 5 or 6 games, and McDavid is relatively held off the score sheet based on what we expect from him, a lot of credit is going to go to Barkov for that. And I think the media loves a good two-way center. Kind of similar to when Ryan O'Reilly won it years ago for the St. Louis Blues. So I still really like Sasha Barkov to take home that award.
I probably should have asked this first, but I'll ask it now. Because I don't know if you know this about us here in the United States, Jake. We're very, geocentric. And there's this whole thing about, Canada hasn't won a cup in 3 decades. Is it a national cause, or do we overrate that? Like, do people in Toronto care if Edmonton wins the Stanley Cup? Is there any brotherhood on that, or is that just nonsense that we make up here?
No, it's. I'd say it's closer to nonsense than anything. I can't speak for everybody. There's everyone's a little bit different, and there might be some people that say, I want to get behind the Canadian team, or I want to get behind Connor McDavid specifically as as the best Canadian player going right now. Now, we haven't really seen a lot of international hockey over the last 10 years or so. So you don't have maybe those connection with the country players as maybe we did 10, 15 years ago when we were playing a lot of international hockey. But I do think Canadians could get behind McDavid specifically. But I can tell you specifically as someone that lives in Toronto, Gill, no one here cares about the Edmonton Oilers at all. As soon as the Leafs are out, it's summertime, it's patio season. If the Blue Jays are good, that would help. They're obviously not. So I think people here have just moved on. They're more talking Leafs off season and what the Leafs are going to do and get ready for next season. So I think at least specifically for people in Toronto, I don't think most of them care about what Edmonton does in this series.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
That was my second. I spent some time in Toronto. I never got the sense that there's just unity on this stuff.
I would say great question because I would have guessed the other way. So the SEC is more ridiculous than the country of Canada rooting for each other.
That's correct.
Those SEC chants drive me insane. Good for you, Canada. Stick to your teams.
That's right. Totally. All right. So real quick then, last hockey question because I want to get your thoughts on golf before you leave here. If you had to predict Panthers in how many games? I assume you're going Panthers here. How many do you think does the trick here?
Well, my initial pick before the series was Panthers in 5 games. I thought Florida would win both their home games, so 1-for-1 so far. We'll see what happens tonight, and I think that they can take one in Edmonton. And if that's the case, we're 3-1 coming back to Florida with a chance to close it out. I like their chances to close that out and just say no. We're going to put our foot down and end this series now. So I'll stick with Panthers in 5. My initial bets before were Panthers to win the series and Panthers minus 1.5 games. So little leeway there where it could go 6, just as long as it doesn't go 7 and the Panthers win. So I'm going to continue to back this team, even though, like I said, I was very impressed by the way that Edmonton played in game 1. If this is the Bobrovsky we're going to get in the Cup final, I think Florida's got a distinct edge between the pipes. I don't trust Stuart Skinner in this spot, in this spotlight, whereas Bobrovsky's played in games like this before.
Yeah, by the way, just to give you some numbers on what Jake's been talking about, Panthers in 5, currently at plus 250. Barkov to win the Conn Smythe plus 280 over at DraftKings, and Bobrovsky, obviously, the short shot at plus 220, with the Panthers up 1-0.